There are totally some mistakes that you don't want to make in Stellar Blade, like missing out on free experience, sleeping on life-saving consumables, or locking yourself out of a ton of side content for the rest of your playthrough. I will tell you everything you need to know so you don't make these mistakes, starting with a pretty big one, auto loot. You want to turn this feature on as soon as possible, as activating this setting means you no longer have to continuously press R2 to grab items and money. You can find it under the gameplay section of the settings menu, and once it's turned on, simply walking over to an item will pick it up immediately. And there are many useful items to find, including some special collectible soda cans. There are 49 of these hidden throughout the game, and by collecting a certain amount, you'll unlock some nice rewards from the special display case located in your safe house in Zion. For every 7 cans you collect, you'll expand your inventory for either consumable potions or items like grenades or mines, and the final reward is a new outfit for Eve. While unlocking that will take a while, having more consumables available is really useful, so make sure to look around for these cans. You can actually find a couple in the city of Zion by knocking on some of the vending machines to get you off to a good start. You also want to look around when exploring for these bodies. They'll have data logs on them that tell you a bit more about the world, but even if you don't care for the extra world building, you still want to interact with them. Because when you do, you'll also be granted a bit of progress towards your next skill point. Since there are many useful skills to unlock, these extra bits of experience are always worth grabbing, so don't miss out on them. And while unlocking new skills expands Eve's arsenal with new or improved moves, you actually want to check out your base skills as well. Because what you might have missed is that right from the get-go, you'll already have a ton of attack combos available to you that you can perform by mixing up light and heavy attacks. You can practice these too by pressing the square button in the skill menu, so you can get a feel for which ones you like and want to use in combat. But yeah, while you definitely can get by just spamming light or heavy attacks, you'll do much better in combat if you know your combos. I really like Onslaught 3 in particular, which you perform by pressing triangle, square, then hold square for the third input and press triangle one more time. The final strike in the combo positions you behind an enemy so they cannot immediately counterattack. And if you want to make your combos even more deadly, there's a special type of exo spine that boosts their damage. We're working on a video talking about that and more amazing items you can get early, so subscribe to not miss it and leave a like if you enjoyed the video so far. On the note of items and equipment, it doesn't take long before you start unlocking new outfits for Eve. And while most of these outfits don't offer any gameplay changes, there is one exception. If you unequip your outfit, Eve will be wearing a skin suit, which offers about as much protection as you'd expect it to. While wearing this suit, you actually have no shield, which is noted by the bar under Eve's health. While active, your shield reduces the damage of incoming attacks, with each hit draining a bit of the meter. But with the skin suit, you don't have this extra layer of protection, which means that every hit you take will be at full power. So unless you want to make the game extra challenging, don't unequip your outfit. Now that I've mentioned shields though, it's good to know that some enemies have shields too, which can be broken by continuously attacking them. Doing so will also stun the enemy momentarily, so it gives you a window to get in some extra attacks as well. So you don't want to make the mistake of using your most damaging abilities like Triplet while an enemy still has their shield, as that means they'll deal reduced damage. Luckily, there's also an ability aptly named Shield Breaker that helps you deal extra damage against enemy shields. Since it only costs 1 skill point to unlock, I definitely recommend grabbing it early, as it can be really helpful against the barnacle enemies you come across in the first level. As you make your way through Eidos 7, you'll eventually run into your first proper boss fight against Abaddon. For this fight, you are told a pretty vital new move called Blink, which is basically a special type of dodge that only triggers on certain attacks. When an enemy flashes blue, pay close attention to Eve's sword, because when the sword flashes with the same color, you can dodge towards an enemy to blink straight through them. And it is actually important that you dodge forward on these blue attacks, otherwise you'll just perform a regular dodge. The reason for that is that there's another type of special dodge called Repulse, which works exactly the same as Blink, except it's marked by a purple glow and you need to dodge backwards to trigger it. But Repulse becomes really amazing once you have your ranged weapon, as it also exposes these big yellow weak spots on certain enemies that can be targeted for extra damage. While your regular slugs already do some decent work, once you unlock the shotgun ammo, you can really deal some big damage after exposing an enemy weak point. But as I said, you need to unlock it first, which you do from the drone upgrade menu. And let's talk about the drone drone a bit, as I really didn't use it enough at first, which is a big mistake. First things first, you unlock it after your first visit to Zion when heading out to the wasteland, but this only gives access to the base slug firing mode. The others need to be unlocked by investing drone upgrade modules, which can be found while exploring and grant access to a laser beam, homing rockets, a shotgun and explosive shells. Even if you don't plan on using a lot of ranged combat, there are some sections of the game that require you to use the drone's weapons. So the more ammo types you have available, the easier those become. But as I already said, unlocking the shotgun allows you to deal some massive damage after repulse, and the other ammo types are useful in various situations too. In fact, I really recommend using your ranged weapons whenever you feel like it, as you cannot stock up on ammunition by storing it. Contrary to other consumable items like lingering potions, there is no storage for ammunition, so any ammo you find if you're fully stocked is just wasted. Plus, if you ever do run low, you can fully restock from any vending machine, and drone ammunition is actually relatively cheap. Now again, this only concerns drone ammo. Any other type of consumable you come across will be sent to your storage, and after resting at a checkpoint, any consumed items are automatically restocked from that storage. While they're more expensive to buy than ammunition is, you still don't want to sleep on these items, as using the right one at the right time can literally save your life. Obviously, the lingering and high concentration potions don't require that much explanation. The first is a healing potion that heals you over time, the other instantly restores an amount of health, much like your rechargeable tumbler does. Both can come in really clutch if your tumbler is empty, but you just need that last bit of health to take down a boss. A bit later into the game, you'll also be able to find and buy a biotic field generator. This is another healing consumable that, like the lingering potion, heals you over time. But unlike the potion, you actually place the device on the ground and heal when you stand close to it. So while it requires some skill to remain in the healing area, the effect lasts for much longer than your lingering potion does, so they are still very useful. But next to healing items, you also have an assortment of mines and grenades that can be very useful too. Shock grenades are ideal for if you need a bit of a breather, as they trigger a shockwave that makes nearby enemies collapse, meaning they are unable to attack you for a short time. Pulse grenades are yet another way you can strip an enemy of their shield, so perfect for if you don't have the energy to perform a shield breaker. There are also two consumables you unlock a bit later, but still pretty early in the game. Smart mines are, well, mines that you place on the ground and wait for an enemy to walk over them. The detonation actually deals shield penetration damage, meaning it is not reduced by an enemy shield. And then there are sonic grenades, which deal damage to an enemy's balance, so the diamonds denoting how many times you need to parry them before you can counter with a powerful retribution attack. One grenade removes 2 diamonds from the meter, so if an enemy's balance is close to being broken, you can use one of these to immediately create an opening for you to use your retribution. And there is one other type of consumable, perhaps the most useful of all, but you don't want to make the mistake of using it at the wrong time. The item I'm talking about is a WB pump, which allows you to revive mid-combat, giving you another shot at taking down a boss or a difficult enemy. So really useful, but you do want to be mindful of when to activate it. You see, dying in Stellar Blade doesn't really have consequences other than the fact that you are set back to your most recent checkpoint. But any consumables used up to that point will still be removed from your inventory, including your WB pump, of course. So if you die early during a boss fight, there's not really any point in using one, as you're probably better off just giving it a second try. Only use these pumps when you're sure you can kill the boss, have a lot of tumbler charges left, or can make it to the next checkpoint after, otherwise you're wasting a pretty expensive consumable for no real gain. Now, while all these items are great at providing extra survivability, your main source of healing is of course your rechargeable tumbler. One cool thing about this item is that it doesn't slow you down at all. In fact, you can pop a healing charge mid-sprint, which can be really useful if you get surrounded or outnumbered. And while the item starts with only 3 charges, you can expand the capacity by looking for these little loot pinata robots. They can contain a variety of items, but I found that they drop tumbler expansion modules very often. So make sure you don't run past these, keep an eye out for them when exploring, and you also want to look out for any telephone booths you come across. These function as fast travel points, but you have to interact with one in order to activate them. This is not true for any booth at a resupply camp, those are actually activated automatically, but when it's just a booth by itself, like many of the ones you find in the city of Zion or in the more open spaces, make sure you interact with it in order to make it available as a fast travel point. And now for the biggest mistake you can make, which is leaving for the space elevator early. No story spoilers of course, but this happens later into the game after retrieving the second hypercell to be precise. When heading to your next destination, the game asks if you want to continue, noting that doing so means that you can no longer proceed with side missions and traveling to other areas will be restricted. And yeah, to clarify, that means no more side missions for the rest of your playthrough. So if you have plans to do everything in the game, you have to do it here, so wrap up all side quests, collectible hunts, anything that requires access to Zion or the other maps before heading out. Because again, this content becomes unavailable after this point. If you have more tips for Stellar Blade, please share them in the comments below. Remember to leave a like if you enjoyed the video and subscribe as we've got more content on the game coming your way. Check out our early things video with amazing unlocks if it's already up by clicking on the screen, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye!